information that I want to cover with you. All right, let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. So if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Now, keep in mind that if you do have any technical issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on today, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you, so throughout today's EcoCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over a live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. Now, if we don't get to your question during the live webinar today, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us will be following up after we wrap. All right, next up, there's going to be lots of cool aha moments on the EcoCast today. And if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there on your audience console, and the hashtag for today's EcoCast will be automatically added to your post. All right, our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the handouts tab for some awesome resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection, solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. Now, if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes that we'll be giving away throughout today's EcoCast. I'm going to tell you a bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. First, you do need to be here live in attendance at the EcoCast in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all of you after we wrap. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, if you don't know what those full T's and C's are, that's fine. We've got the full thing for you. Just head on over to that handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find them waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we actually have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's EcoCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our live sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all questions asked after we wrap the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and you would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about your big win, and we'll get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the EcoCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going, so let's connect on social media. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content and resources right after we wrap the EcoCast today, be sure to subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and, hey, grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or a coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you'll find a link to do that right in your handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. And both you and your coworker or friend could win a prize, and we hold those drawings every month. So be sure to refer a friend because, it could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for all the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your handouts tab, fill out a quick application, and the Actual Tech crew will then match you with some vendors that we think you should probably be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you get to choose to join in, like surveys, test runs, new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you'll learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker on your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you all about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find out everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, prevent, and recover. This site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. Go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books will work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and as I said, they are completely free. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in that Handouts tab as well. All right, well, we have covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get going. All right, my friends. Well, hi, hello, welcome. Let's get into the good stuff. Today, we are talking about securing the enterprise with endpoint protection platforms. And I am so excited that I get to be a part of this conversation with all of you today because endpoint security is so important and definitely layered. Today, we're going to be looking at methods to detect and respond to threats. And with the help of our top experts here with us from Tanium and Kaseya, we will explore the best practices for deployment and management and how you can strengthen your organization's all-important endpoint security. This is going to be such a fun day. I can't wait to get started. So let's get the ball rolling, get the show on the road. I'm going to once again introduce myself, Jess Steinbach. I'm a moderator here at Actual Tech Media, and these are my wonderful fellow moderators here with us today on live chat. That is Keith Ward, Scott Becker, and Mackenzie Puddesy. Now, Mackenzie is also waiting in the wings with our keynote speaker, so stay tuned for that. But before we get into our keynote, I want to make sure we talk about prizes because I know you guys all have an eye on that as well. So today on the EcoCast, you could win one of three $300 Amazon gift cards. We will be giving away these cards to 3 lucky winners who are here live and present at the EcoCast. And of course, maybe just a little bit lucky. Now, all of our winners, not just being live and present, you also do need to meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you're not sure what those are, don't worry about it. We have them linked for you in the Handouts tab. So head on over to that Handouts tab, click in, scroll down. You will find those waiting for you there. I see all the wonderful highs and hellos coming in. Hey, Norman. Hey, Edward. Hey, Seth, Mercy, Sean, John, Saeed, Jake, David. More than I can get through in our intro. Keep those highs and hellos coming. It is great to hear from all of you. And with that, we are going to jump into our keynote. I am very excited to introduce our keynote speaker, the wonderful Larry Seltzer, security researcher and all-around fascinating human who is waiting in the wings with the one and only Mackenzie Puddesy, our moderator here at Actual Tech Media. So Mackenzie, I'm going to hand things over to you to chit chat with the wonderful Larry. Take it away.
All right, thank you. I'm so excited to be here with Larry Seltzer once again. Larry, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome, awesome. I'm going to just pose some questions to you and just get right into it if that works for you.
Great. Shoot.
Beautiful. All right, so my first question for you is, in brief, what is an endpoint and what major capabilities must an effective endpoint security platform include?
Okay, there are many kinds of endpoints, but the large majority of them are computers, desktops, laptops, and mobile devices, which in the real world is Android and iOS devices. And we call this space EDR these days, for endpoint detection and response. And it evolved from what we used to call endpoint security and antivirus long before that. And EDR can replace your antivirus. It's designed and priced for businesses with complex networks and large numbers of endpoints. We think of endpoints as end user computers, but functionally servers are also endpoints to a great extent, so they also need ADR protection. There are other kinds of endpoints that aren't really addressed by EDR, like smartwatches, sensors, smart TVs, because these are very limited function devices with limited resources. And even if someone were to write an EDR client for them, they aren't designed for, the devices aren't really designed with the memory and processing necessary, or maybe even the network capacity necessary to handle the EDR client. So these products are better protected by network level measures. I think of, well, so what should an EDR do? There's more than one. They're more than just the old standalone products. That they're part of a security ecosystem provided by the vendor and partners. They perform continuous monitoring for suspicious and obviously malicious behavior. They collect data on the system and analyze it and feed it back to the vendor's cloud, where the threats are analyzed as part of a bigger picture. When they find threats, they respond in many ways by blocking the threat, maybe isolating the endpoint from the rest of the network. EDR is best sold as part of a security contract with a company that sells it, where you're buying the vendor's consulting and analysis services. Security analysts from the vendor may actively use the EDR software to analyze endpoints when they're investigating threats. And they also integrate with other security tools that you might buy from that or similar vendors, like SOAR is one I just recently learned about, security orchestration, automation, and response, which is about automating responses to network threats.
All right. So many endpoints, which is why we're here today. Talk about that.
What's
And
the end point of it all, really?
I like that. What's the endpoint of it all? So to follow up on that, how would you vet an endpoint security provider? What kind of trends and features should people be looking for nowadays?
Selecting an EDR solution is going to be part of an overall security plan, which probably begins with you picking expert consultants. Unless you yourselves are security experts, in which case, thank you, I'm flattered, you want my advice. You're going to need outside experts, and even big companies like Microsoft hire these outsiders because they can give you a broader perspective on things. They will have informed opinions on what products best meet your needs. The most important factors are the hardest ones to know in advance, which are the best at detection and response, which are the most flexible for administrators, or some better for the systems and software you run than others, which scale better than others. You might also care about price. That matters to some people too. But do you have regulatory compliance reporting to do? Because the products may feed into that process, and to the extent that they help you automate reporting, the better. The answers to these and all the other questions you have, they depend on your specific needs and circumstances, and only someone familiar with your IT needs and the market options can answer them correctly. There's something else about this decision. Many of the EDR vendors are themselves large consulting firms, and obviously they have one product to sell and they will use it as part of securing you. I personally would want to have at least one outside expert to consult with when selecting a solution. A good analyst report on the space could be helpful.
I like it. Always the sober house of second thought or a second opinion, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And so with work having changed so much, we've got, cloud environments, remote work scenarios, has this forced endpoint protection platforms to evolve? And if so, I assume so, but how?
Well, in lots of ways. The attack surface now that the EDR has to protect, it's much larger and more complex. The endpoint can be anywhere. It could be on the moon as far as the vendor knows, and the EDR has to protect it. That means the scope of visibility of the product must be very large. There's no aspect of endpoint activity that it can ignore, take for granted. Any decent EDR solution will operate in a cloud native or a hybrid environment, and this gives it an agility that may help keep it ahead of outsiders. The updates, management, policy enforcement, the monitoring, these can all happen quickly. The cloud allows EDR vendors to integrate with other cloud solutions you have, like asset inventory, identity and access management, cloud security posture management, CSPM, which that monitors cloud-based systems and infrastructures for risks and misconfigurations. Because all this cloud stuff works together so much, many of the EDR vendors have evolved what they call XDR systems, for extended detection and response. And this extends the protection beyond endpoints to include other data sources like network traffic, cloud infrastructure, email systems, whatever. It's also known as another thing they can sell you, but it's a it's a reasonable, uh, you know, development of a, more complex solution. If you're a typical organization, you have a hybrid architecture. So you've got lots of on-prem assets that you'll get around to modernizing someday, and other assets in one or more public clouds. And doing hybrid right is tricky, and the better EDRs will be designed to handle the complexity that comes with them. The quality of the protection in a remote work situation also depends a lot on the policy. The safest, although not the cheapest, policy is to buy everyone a company laptop, maybe a company phone, and require that all the company work and nothing else be done on them. There are industries like finance where they can really set hard rules like that and enforce them. But the fact is they're a real pain and they're very expensive, and most companies have some flex in their policy. Use your phone also for work. Probably how much you tighten the screws depends on the extent of your compliance burden, which is why finance can be so strict.
All right. And so you mentioned this kind of modernization leap, people being a mix of on-prem and in cloud. To kind of push it even further, hot topics these days are always AI, machine learning, and kind of the scalability challenge. How do these kind of play a role in endpoint security?
Well, it's like everywhere else. AI is changing everything. These companies tell us they're already using it extensively. Like I've been saying already, there's a lot that an EDR and its cloud components have to keep track of. And that's why many and maybe even all of the vendors are using AI to help them digest the constant flood of events. It helps them to update their models and optimize them for execution on the endpoint. And this is, by the way, not a completely new idea. When I wrote my first article on the use of machine learning for security analysis in 2018. The idea back then was that we would feed petabytes of log data through a model, and it would find attacks and other behavior that human analysts would miss just because there's just too much data. But that would all be retrospective. The idea now is to do it closer to real time. The machine learning is always going on. The models are executing at the endpoint and or close to it and are updated frequently. And AI and machine learning here are they're two sides of the same coin. The only way to keep up with the scale is with AI, and human analysts are too scarce and expensive anyway. There's always going to be a role for them, I assume, when a model finds something suspicious enough. One of the things it may do is escalate it to a human analyst, probably an employee of the EDR vendor. So the worldwide nature of the cloud means that there's analysts like that all over the world. The model is distributed everywhere. Analysis is going on at all times. Once again, this could all be on the moon.
I like it. Like, here to the moon, Larry. You are an incredible source of knowledge, so thank you for being here. I think we're going to hand things over back to all of our speakers today, but thank you so much. I appreciate you being here.
Okay, it's great. It's always good to be here. Thanks
You
for
are
having me.
great. An absolute pleasure. Well, thanks again, Larry, and I'm going to kick things back over to you. Thank you. Cheers.
Oh, well, thanks, Mackenzie. Always such a great way to start a day with you and with Larry, of course. What a wonderful chat. I'm seeing lots of you chiming in, giving us the highs and hellos, the happy Thursday vibes from Paul. I appreciate that. So keep those coming as we go today. You're going to want to make sure that you get all those questions in for our wonderful experts here with us. We've got lots of info coming at you. Now, we're going to start with a question for all of you that you see up on your screen here. What is your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions? So what we're talking about today, obviously, endpoints. So if you're thinking about updating your endpoint protection plans, if you've got, you need to make immediate changes, or maybe you're thinking a little bit longer term, what is the time frame that you have in mind? And this is going to help our speakers know where you're at in terms of the information that you need. Is this an urgent ask, or maybe a little bit farther planning ahead? Or, hey, if this is all new to you and you are still in that research phase, that early part of the journey there, no problem at all. Hit that not sure button. Right now, I got to tell you, I'm seeing most of us trending towards the not sure. I'm seeing that as kind of the highest percentage of folks coming in today, which is an awesome place to start a conversation, because I bet you our experts are going to help you narrow in a little bit more on that timeline as we go through our day today. All right, well, with that, I think it is time that we get started on this EcoCast. And we are definitely starting out on a high note here because we've got the Tanium crew with us. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce you all to our very first expert presenter here on the EcoCast today, and that is Mark Liu, Director Technical Account Management at Tanium. Mark, thank you so much for being here with us today to get us started on this awesome EcoCast. I know you have an absolute ton of great information in store for us. We've got a demo coming our way. We're going to do some Q&A at the end. Lots of excitement ahead. So I am going to step back. I'm going to hand things on over to you. Take it away, Mark.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Mark. I am well, I have a couple titles, so this is one of them, but I am also the domain architect lead for security at Tanium as well. So which is probably pretty apt for this conversation today, because we're going to be talking about cybersecurity. And I was brought in to kind of talk about, EPP, EDR, and, just like Larry was speaking about in the keynote earlier, there's a lot of challenges out there in the cybersecurity world for everyone, because the landscape is changing and it's rapidly changing. I don't have a chart for you of this today, but I wish I brought it. I was looking at the dwell time for how long an attacker stays in an environment before it's detected. And dwell time is just simply a measurement in our industry that tells us like how long before a detection actually happens to tell us that the attacker is, there, present, that we know something about them. And what I've seen on the trend is that we're actually trending towards there's a good chunk, 50% or so, detected within the first 0 to 7 days. However, there is a long tail for that security dwell time, and there are many of them, right? Especially in trending upwards now since 2022, that the dwell time is actually getting longer. And what I mean is that there's a little bump at the end at 2000. And really, this is hard to talk about without a visual, so my apologies for that. So what I really want to talk about is the holistic approach to cybersecurity. And realistically, what this means is that when we talk about cybersecurity, there is going to be an incident. There's going to be a thing that happens. And this is where, an attacker gets in, something happens. This is where your EDR, EPP solutions kick in and they tell you there's something wrong. Or sometimes if they catch it, that's, where they give you that visibility to what they have. But there are also some issues and challenges with just having an EDR or EPP solution. Realistically, the problem becomes that most of these solutions are very reactive, they're signature based, and they're limited. So we'll kind of go through those points one by one. Reactive, right? Just like Larry was talking about. I mean, I think it's a really cool idea that he mentioned that there is, feeding a bunch of log data into ML to kind of do analysis and saying, hey, what kind of trends are we looking at? And can we make our protection on the border, on the edge, even smarter based on what's actually happening in the field? Well, the problem with a lot of EPP solutions that they're reactive, meaning they are going to react to what's happening now. They're not going to proactively make any changes, right? Now that's changing in the industry. There's a lot of different software out there that will be basing things on, AI and ML that will be looking at ways to make it more proactive. But again, it's not perfect, and we're in the very, very early stage of that. The other part of that too is that a lot of the larger vendors that are providing EDR, APP are going to be able to offer customers the ability to kind of learn from each other, right? So while it is signature based, meaning these are written intel documents is what we normally say in the industry, of what the threat is and what the threat looks like, there are ways that we can learn from each other in the industry and then be able to write signatures across the board for everyone. So that's one of the benefits of having a larger provider of EPP and EDR to give you that. However, it is still going to be limited and signature based, meaning attackers also know this. So attackers are doing nowadays are that they are going out there and they're literally testing their software against what they know that is already present for the signature. What I mean by that is, oftentimes attackers will write a tool and then they will directly send that to, for example, VirusTotal to just see out of all the different sources out there, EPP vendors, who can detect my malware, who can say this is actually malicious. And they will only deploy their exploit once they realize that no one knows about it. So that's where they defeat the signature-based approach. And again, putting it all together, these kind of approaches are going to be a little bit limited because what you're just looking at is right after the boom, right after the attacker has already gotten in. But there are many, many, many different ways that you can approach security that is beyond just what happens after. And this is where I want to present like a different model, a way to kind of think about a more holistic approach to security. And I often do this with most of my thinking is that I think about things in a past, present, future state. So when you think about present, if we take into effect the idea that present is when the attack happens, the past is really about what you've done to prevent that attack from coming in, right? So many organizations I work with every day, one of the challenges they have is just dealing with their current vulnerabilities, dealing with their current patches, and those things are not being taken care of at all. There is very few cases where that's done in a very, very, very like good model according to just when patches are released. And that I would say is table stakes because that's the easy stuff, right? Any hacker can look at different patch release notes and say, if they're fixing this security bug, well, I'm gonna go attack the ones that have not fixed and applied the security bug, and they've already given me enough hints to go write my exploit code. So that's what the past view looks like. One of my customers I spoke with just 2 months ago, where we went through this big project to get them more up to date with their systems. They actually have teams that have been arguing about what report is correct about which machines are vulnerable for the past 2 years. So in fact, they had, I think when we ran our report, we had 4.7 million vulnerabilities, criticals and highs, across their entire state of endpoints that were not being addressed. So at some point, one of the managers, took the reins and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take 100 machines and we're just going to patch them to the full. This is all the stuff that's released by the vendor that's present there. And what they've done in that 1 month was to reduce vulnerabilities from 4.7 million down to about 2.8. And what they're showing everyone else is, hey, look how much vulnerability reduction you can do just by patching a small portion of the machines without having this back and forth argument. So that's what the really past state is, getting your cybersecurity hygiene up to snuff. Present state is what we talked about, your EDR, EPP approach to figure out when a threat comes into your environment. What do you do about that? Future state. It's not really a future as in the future of software, but the future of what happens after. So a lot of times when you detect a threat actor in your environment, your next step is going to be, what's the impact? How large? How wide? Where else have they gone? And these kind of things are not very easily done with just a simple EPP solution, right? So if you have antivirus, it's going to say, hey, I've detected this threat. I've, for example, blocked it, and that's it. It doesn't tell you that the threat has already migrated to other machines in the network, other devices, or maybe the threat actor is still present. So the future state is about figuring out ways to understand what your current environment is, and then understand what to do about that. And this is where I believe, let me advance slide here. This is why I believe really there are three major things you have to think about with respect to kind of approaching your cybersecurity hygiene, right? So visibility and control, and the ability to do remediation. And so when I talk about visibility, what I mean is real-time visibility. I think at this point, there is, you can have all the reports you want and data kept in a database that's refreshed on a monthly, weekly, some type of cadence is simply just not good enough anymore, especially when you're dealing with the current state of cybersecurity where everything is faster, things are moving quicker, and stop having these arguments about what's true and just present the truth, because you're going to have real-time visibility. This is where Tanium as a software kind of comes in and helps you get that real-time visibility. In addition to that, we provide control. And this is the response part of EDR. This is the ability to take action, right? So with the power of real-time visibility and your ability to make decisions on the fly, ensure that when you say, hey, apply this policy, enforce this patch, push this patch, uninstall the software, that it actually happens, that's real control. Apply network quarantine, right? That's control, so that you don't have to worry about whether you deploy the right action, but that whether your action actually has taken effect on the endpoint. The last part is about remediation. And this is the beyond part for dealing with the threat in your landscape. So you've applied a quarantine policy, for example, to one machine that you suspect is currently under attack or has been infected. What do you do about the rest of the environment? Now, ideally, your team has identified other hashes, other different indicators of compromise that you can then leverage to go find and identify other places where this attacker might have gone in. And then beyond that, you want to have the ability to actually take control and remediate across the board, not just the one machine that's present, but all of the machines that you may not have triggered an EPP detection alert yet. And that's where that third part comes in, remediation. And beyond that a little bit, Tanium is offering our future of remediation, which is all about autonomous endpoint management, which we'll kind of talk about towards the end of this conversation. But before we get any further, I do want to present a demo for you today, and just to kind of show you what Tanium looks like, so you can see how we do these things I just demonstrated here. Okay, let me get the screen share started here.
I'm here with you, so I'll give you a little check mark.
All right. How's that? You guys see
Looks great. I gotcha.
Screen? All right, cool. I did test this beforehand to make sure that it did load up. So yeah. Okay. So a couple things, right? Number one is all about visibility. So how does Tanium work through visibility? It's simply that we can ask questions, any questions, into our question bar here, and then be able to give you the answers back in seconds. So in my demo environment, I have over about 1,000 machines, but I can simply say, hey, give me your computer names, right? And IP address, and maybe, let's say, installed applications. And I'm typing in simple English here. I'm not writing a query language. I'm just directly telling Tanium what I want. And Tanium takes my question, changes into very similar, but our structured query language here, and then pulls this data back. Now, here's the really cool thing. I said a bunch of things that sound very much like database and SQL. This is not a database in SQL. All of these answers that you see back on the screen here that came back in seconds from over 1,000 machines is live, right? And what I mean by that is we are literally going to every single machine, right? And then querying that data back from those endpoints. And oftentimes when I get to this point, people ask me the question, hey, like, does this cause a huge network outage in my environment if I have millions of endpoints? It does not. We have a very efficient way to go query that, query the information back. Happy to kind of go over that with anybody who wants to do that. Maybe probably a different time because it's going to be a little complicated for our architecture. But it is just simply amazing we can do this. In fact, we have customers that have over like 2 million endpoints, and it works the same way. And we don't need more than the standard set of one server to achieve this, right? So if I have millions of endpoints, we can still do it with one server. So as you can see here, I've just pulled back computer name, IP address from those machines, and then what's installed on all of those machines and their versions related. And this is pretty simple, straightforward table stake stuff that I think most software really needs to have the ability to do, right? Because these kind of real-time visibility allows you to do other fun things like this. What about running processes? What if I want to know what's running right now on all of my endpoints, right? And from a security perspective, I think I probably can see a lot of light bulbs already going on off in the room, but what if I reverse sort this list here? What if there's our software that looks like a certain software, but is only one instance in my environment? Those are good indicators of problem, right? Now, I'm not saying all of these are malicious or that you should take quick action on all of these things, but these are definitely things that you can start thinking about, like investigating further. I have a large environment. Why is there only one copy of, let's say, Splunk? That doesn't make any sense. There should be more than one Splunk forwarder, as an example, right? And many, many, many other different things that you can look at from this perspective. Now, if we were to find something, let's say, the scanning process that really shouldn't be there, you can actually take immediate action on this. So what you can do is select this here, deploy action. And what this allows you to do is do something like kill this process. And I could just push this out and then end this process directly on that machine without further action. And then if I were to query the same query I did before again, I would see that the process is now gone. And that's the power of this real-time visibility and the ability to take action on what you see, which really gives you decision-making supremacy. Now, this right here, what I've shown you, is just the core of Tanium. This is all of the basics of what Tanium provides to you and all of our customers. But throughout the years, we thought about, hey, what does that mean for our customers? What are they actually looking for, right? What are the challenges that they're facing that they're not able to do with the current software they have today? One thing that comes up pretty often is CMDB, right? Personally, I was in a company prior to Tanium. We spent over $2 million POCing 2 different software. I won't name the vendors here, but we ended up not buying either one, but we did burn through $2 million worth of cash trying to figure out what the right software is. And a lot of the problems that we had were just simply not getting things like visibility and actually getting updated asset reports. Well, as you saw earlier in my example of the demo, what I showed you was, hey, I can get computer name, right, IP address, installed applications. That's kind of a really, really, really basic hardware and software inventory. And I can do that real time. So what we started doing with Tanium was saying, why don't we just do that for all of our customers directly in our product? So what we do is we can pull this data back and keep it very, very, very fresh, right? This is updated, I think that's got to be like an hour ago or two. And then we can pull back all this information because all of these are just questions that we can send down to endpoints, right? Your serial number, your OS platform versions, etc. All these different pieces. The installed applications, what you saw earlier here, right? And then the logical disks that are present, right? What's the size on those disks? What are the physical disks attached? And then your network adapters. And this is the basic stuff that provides a asset database for you. And with this, of course, you can do many, many different things. You can take this data, if you are using different asset management vendors out today, for example, ServiceNow, Flexera, pretty common things, you can take this data, directly integrate with them, and send it from Tanium over to those sources. But we are here to talk about security. So let's talk about specifically how we deal with vulnerabilities. So with vulnerability management, when we think about things like, hey, what are the things that are vulnerable within our environment? The one of the challenges that we have, a lot of our customers have, is like, I need to go buy another tool. I need to go then deploy this tool. I need to go then have this tool scan and then be able to get back the vulnerability data from my environment. Well, when we look at the asset database earlier in the software inventory, realistically, what is different about that versus pulling back a vulnerability report? Actually, not very much, right? A lot of vulnerability detection is based on your versions, based on how it's installed. And so we can pull the same data back within Tanium as well and be able to give you for any specific CVE, right, exactly what the vulnerability is. And then in cases where we're able to, we can even give you ways to remediate this through patching. So you can directly take a vulnerability and apply the relevant patches that are associated with that vulnerability directly to the endpoints that are vulnerable in your environment. Again, I want to highlight real time here. If you have that real time data, I can ensure that when I patch, I'm patching machines that are not currently patched for this vulnerability, and then push and be able to cover a specific vulnerability. And this is not something that a lot of other vendors can do because their reports are old, that their patching may not be, maybe a different software, so the data isn't meshed together. Right, a lot of the arguments I see between risk team and compliance teams and patching and operations team is that one team will say you're vulnerable, the other team says I'm not. I already applied the patch because that data is not. They're kind of not coming from the same data source. The data is also different and old. So a lot of the stuff I've shown you here is preventive and proactive. So what does Tanium do about current threats and then beyond? Well, Tanium has this crazy module called threat response. And threat response is really our module for handling your incidents and incident response within your environment, and has the ability to kind of do a lot of the reactive things that a lot of security organizations are looking to do. So you kind of basically start from your intelligence document. These are your IOCs. These are going to be Tanium signals are things that we write ourselves and we feed it out to our customers. So this is a feed that we provide on different detections based on what we're seeing in the field, based on what minor attack, like metrics that may be being leveraged by attackers that we're seeing, based on specific things that we think would be useful for our customers. We push these out to the customer's environment, and the customers can then take these Intel documents and apply it to their endpoints. Once those endpoints run the Intel scans and figure out exactly what's happening. By the way, that scan happens at real time so that we know if some process gets executed that matches our signature here for the Intel document, then it's able to detect it and then give us an alert. With these alerts, we can actually get a bunch of alerting data. So as an example, here's an alert. It provides you the reputation data for the actual process executable, so that you know if a specific executable is part of the alert, whether it's actually malicious or benign. So in this case, our reputation providers have come back and said, hey, we think this actual executable here is totally fine, right? Whereas if, for example, if the executable is hijacked or it's being replaced by a malicious actor, then the reputation providers will have different responses to an executable. So, but aside from that, you can get other cool information. For example, the process PIDs, the parent PIDs, and you can really dive deep on the specific alert. What spawned it? What did it do afterwards? What was it doing? How was it triggering this event? In addition to that, we also have impact scoring. And what this allows you to do is that at the top high level, you can quickly score what threats and what alerts are coming in that are highest impact to you. And this is based on, for example, your lateral movement capabilities. For example, if a specific attack targets a machine that has a lot of access or a specific user that has a lot of access, that raises your impact scores, because we're going to tell you from here that this machine has access to many, many machines in your environment, and you should really take care of this alert first. So I've actually spoken a lot about Tanium, and there's so much more to talk about that I'm not covering here at all. As you can see, there are modules almost for every use case that we can think of under the sun. Realistically, a lot of things comes a question of, hey, let's say you want to update third-party software, Adobe, Firefox, Chrome, etc. Then deploy module can meet that requirements for you. Right? If you're looking for performance analysis, what's happening on endpoints, and really what process is taking a lot of memory, CPU, performance module does that. If you need file integrity monitoring, Integrity Monitor provides that for you. So all of this is covered within one tool under one platform. So that's what really Tanium's about. Happy to answer any questions in the field. I'll just leave a lot of time for that. And yeah.
All right, Mark, we still got your screen share up. Just letting you know in case you want to go on about your, we can go into your email inbox with
you. Yes, all the security secrets. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was an awesome demo. Thank you so much for walking us through that. We have a few minutes left now that we can get into Q&A. We will not get to all of the questions because we have so many wonderful questions coming in. I'm going to actually move our screen over to this poll question that we have for everyone out there in the audience. What we're wondering is, what is the additional information that you would like to get about the Tanium solution? So, as Mark just said, this is high level, right? Like we heard a lot of great stuff, and there's so much more to dig into. So if you would like to continue this conversation with Tanium, click on the screen right now and let them know what additional information you are looking for. While they're all doing that, Mark, should we try to get into a few of these questions here?
Sure, let's try it.
Okay. We definitely have a lot. Let's try this one here. Does Tanium identify vulnerabilities that are not patch related? So protocols, ports, configuration issues, etc. And is it MSP friendly and multi-tenant?
Yes, it is. So we'll kind of answer the first part of the question, which is vulnerability identification. Yes, absolutely. Even if there's no patch related, we will be able to tell you that it's vulnerable. Basically, if there's a CVE written for it, then we'll know about it. That's pretty standard in the field. And as far as the second question is about MSP, so Tanium actually has a lot of partners that we work with that directly help kind of manage Tanium for our customers. So I think it really depends on your environment and your needs, but there's quite a few partners out there that will leverage the Tanium tools for you, whether it's from a managed perspective, whether from a staff augmentation perspective.
Perfect. Okay. Question here. We got a couple of kind of wondering where you think Tanium really stands out. What do you think is kind of the main differentiator for you?
At the core, it's about visibility control. So the things that I've shown you on the screen are pre-written sensors and packages. We have over, I think, 500 sensors now and 400 something packages. These are questions you can ask and then actions you can take. But realistically, for any customer that's really serious about their security perspective and stance within their environment, they can author their own sensors and packages. This is where the extensibility of Tanium really comes in. So as an example, SSH Snake is a pretty recent issue that we are facing in the industry. one of my customers worked with me and we wrote a script that is able to detect it in their environment and go remediate it, right? If there's any keys that are unprotected, that are in places they shouldn't be, we can actually do something about that. And, other vendors, you're mostly going to say, hey, vendor, feature request, can you do this? And maybe like 3 to 6 months later, they'll have a button for you. With us, you can just do it. And with our broad community of users, you can actually share that knowledge across with other users too. So you'll have that capability enabled in your environment.
Awesome. That's definitely a good differentiator, a good standout. And I hate to say that that's where we're going to have to leave it today, Mark, because there's so many more questions that we are just not getting into. If you have a little time to stick around on live chat, we've got some questions in the folder for you. And either way, for everyone out there that is asking questions still, please, I know Jim says, boo. I know, Jim. I'm with you on that. We will make sure that all of the questions that you ask get sent to the Tanium crew. So you are going to get responses back regardless. Before I let you go, though, if somebody is really looking to take that first step and jump in with Tanium, what would you recommend is the best way to get started?
Yeah, so if you don't mind me going back on one slide here,
No.
But basically just go to our homepage, right? There's I saw some requests for like white papers and data sheets, customer, information. Yeah, just go to our homepage. I mean, honestly, that's the launch portal for everything. If you want to see how the software kind of works, you can actually request a demo from there and then just go from there. That's probably the best way to learn more.
Nice and easy. That is clickable, by the way. So if you haven't already done it, click on your screen right now and open up that tab. Don't leave us just yet because there's lots more to come, but open that tab, hold on to that, and spend some time with Tanium after we wrap the EcoCast. Mark, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for kicking us off in style today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, so everyone out there, keep clicking on the poll. Keep those questions coming in. We absolutely want to hear from you. So definitely keep those questions. We will make sure that you get responses back. All right, while you're doing that, I'm going to give away a quick prize, and then we've got more to come. So we got to keep things rolling on the EcoCast today. But we have a $300 Amazon gift card going to someone who's here live and present with us at the EcoCast. Now, that lucky special someone is Bill Reed from Mississippi. Bill Reed from Mississippi, congratulations. You have won a $300 Amazon gift card. Now, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after we wrap up the EcoCast. And I want to remind you that there are not only more chances to win that gift card, there is also that best question gift card. That's a $50 Amazon gift card coming at you from each one of the sessions. So even if we don't get to your question live, you are still entered to win that best question gift card. So get those questions ready because we have a whole other awesome session coming at you. And I said this earlier, our EcoCast today is fast paced. It's packing a punch. We've got a lot of great information and it is quick and fast paced, which means we are already at our last presentation of the EcoCast. But don't worry, my friends, because we are definitely not winding down. We are ramping things up. We are here with the Kaseya crew. And I am so excited that I get to introduce you all to our grand finale in the EcoCast today. And that is Keenan Ball, Senior Product Marketing Director. Now, Keenan, I know you have a ton of great information in store for us, lots ahead. We want to save some time for Q&A, so I'm going to hand things on over to you. Take it away.
Awesome, Jess. Yeah, thanks so much for having me here. Last but not least, let's get right into it. So I should have slide control. All right. Looks like we are about to get rocking and rolling. My slides are not advancing. My apologies. I know we said fast and furious.
Immediate. I can move things forward for you if it's not working for you, Keenan.
Yeah, let's just move it one forward and see if that gets us on the right track.
All
right,
if it's working for you, you can take over. But until then, just say next, and I'm here with you.
Perfect. Well, we're going to talk about how to unify and automate endpoint management, security, and backup with Kaseya 365. We just launched it. We're pretty pumped about it. It is an incredibly low-cost solution to do everything you need. So yeah, let's keep rolling. I'm Keenan Ball. I'm coming to you live from surprisingly sunny Vancouver, Canada. So I apologize in advance for how much I apologize and how sorry sounds pretty funny coming out. But yeah, let's keep rolling. So you might be asking yourself, this is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful car. How did we get here? IT professionals as a whole are profoundly burned out, unfortunately. In a recent survey we conducted, 76% of IT professionals report increasing burnout. That is an epidemic, right? So how did we get here? And really on the next slide, you'll see that for a long time, we were all on-prem, right? We were all on site even. We'd wander upstairs, we'd wander downstairs. This was the very definition of endpoint laptops, desktops, and servers. But that things changed, and they changed really fast. And we can probably just skip straight to slide 26. But what happened is very quickly we experienced both an explosion in endpoint count and an explosion in endpoint type. And why that's particularly terrifying is, well, an explosion in endpoint count it's a linear scaling problem. This is simply just every 100, every 200, every 500 endpoints you add to your portfolio, you hire a new engineer, a new technician, whoever, right? But this is both endpoint count and endpoint type that are exploding simultaneously. And that changes it from a linear scaling throughput equation to an exponential scaling throughput equation. And this is one of the main reasons why IT professionals are so burned out is it's this boiling the frog scenario where, the expectations of our department, of our business were increasing a little bit year over year, but exponentially so. And now suddenly we're on the part of the exponential curve where we are just absolutely skyrocketing. And a lot of IT professionals feel like they're both boiling and drowning simultaneously, which is bad, right? So we have to do more with less, right? Well, the answer to do more with less is always technology. So what we do, and on the next slide, is you'll see that we got all these different individual point solutions to manage all of our endpoints. The average IT shop, whether that be internal IT or an MSP, has between 3 and 4 different point solutions just for managing their endpoints. And it's closer to 4, it's 3.7. And, there's some obvious hard costs associated with this, right? We're spending somewhere between 3 and 4 times as much as we should just to manage our endpoints, just to secure our endpoints. But that's not the real cost, right? The real cost on the next slide is much worse, and they're soft costs. Harvard Business School calls this the toggle tax. Bain & Co. calls this the space between. We here at Kaseya usually call it the space between as well. But both these independent studies came to roughly the same conclusion, which is that IT professionals waste somewhere between 15% and 25% of their time just alt-tabbing back and forth and context switching between these different disconnected, disparate solutions. 15 to 25% of your day. So when you think about why you're so burned out, when you think about why you're working 50-hour weeks, when you're thinking about why your family vacations keep getting interrupted by, security or just general, in quotations, IT crises, it's because of the toggle tax. But the costs are greater than just the toggle tax too. When you think about these, I'll just call it 4 for easy math. When you think about these 4 different point solutions that you have, that's 4 different interfaces that you have to learn. That's 4 different interfaces you have to train your new junior woodchuck engineer on. That's 4 different release notes that you have to at least kind of keep up on. So you make sure you get all these, killer features that all these different vendors are releasing, which is that's tough, right? Then there's alert noise. They say that fear is the mind killer, but noise is the productivity killer. And I think Mark did a great job of discussing this in the previous discussion. But what a lot of IT shops end up doing with alerts is nothing. They just go, you know what, man, I get like 500 a day. I don't know. Nothing's happened yet. It's probably fine. That is not the right call, obviously. But when you're having to deal with, 200, 400, 500 alerts per point solution alone, I understand why you get into a position where you're just like, I don't know, I don't want to deal with this, right? Security, another big issue. Larger attack surface and the tyranny of the default. That's something that we worry about a lot here at Kaseya, but the tyranny of the default is where, you assume this tool was set up right. You assume someone smarter than you set up your security tool. Every IT department is different. Every business is different. You got to make sure you're customizing your tools and your cybersecurity strategy to the unique problems that your business faces. And then finally, scale. Just simply even doing the basics, discovery, patching, configuration management, ensuring antivirus and EDR are installed on all of your endpoints is pretty tricky at scale. And to put a finer point on it, and we'll discuss this in the next slide, you as the IT professional are managing the past, the present, and the future all at the same time. So of course you're burned out. You're working in 3 timelines. Marvel can't even do that, and they have billions of dollars from Disney. How can you be expected to do it as, a intelligent but overworked IT professional? So what do we do about this, right? Well, what you do is you kind of need to optimize this, right? And, let's talk about what you need to do just as what's essential, what's foundational, what's even existential, right? The essential components for managing today's IT environments are you need to be managing every endpoint. So that means auditing, that means OS patching, that means application patching, that means a lot of monitoring, and it means general support, usually through a remote control tool. You need to be protecting against today's threats, antivirus, EDR. You need some ransomware rollback capabilities, and ideally you have an MDR or managed SOC. I think a lot of us don't actually have the time to be combing through security logs. So it's nice to have, American engineers who are doing that for you and telling you what is really scary. You need to be backing up all data. That's your endpoint data, that's your cloud data, and it's a lot of your SaaS application data. And of course, you have networking you've got to deal with as well. Well, what happens is that we often end up buying the best in breed of each of these tools. And so I'm going to use a bit of a music analogy on the next slide, where if you're buying best in breed, let's say, you've got Taylor Swift, you've got Lars Ulrich of Metallica, you've got Miles Davis, and you've got Elton John. Wow, all of these are some of the greatest artists of all time, right? But if you put them on the same stage together with no game plan, if they're not integrated, you're going to get in a scenario where you don't get We Are the World. You're going to get this unholy racket. And poor Gollum is going to be covering his little hobbit ears because, oh my goodness, why aren't you guys working together? So I think this is a critical flaw that a lot of IT departments do, is they buy all these best of breed tools that don't work together, and they get themselves into this brutal toggle tax period. So what you actually need is tools, best in breed, solutions, artists who are working together, who are being orchestrated through a central platform like this. So, sometimes it's better to get, a pretty gosh darn good tool that's properly integrated than to get a best in breed tool. So let's talk about Kaseya's strategy, because it's intimately linked to this. Our strategy is, true unified endpoint management, true unified endpoint security. And on the next slide, you'll see the range of endpoints that we cover and that we treat every device as first class. One of the really cool things about Kaseya's endpoint management solutions is they're not, the very definition of endpoint has changed. And now, at least in my mind, endpoint also means end user as well. So we of course have our PCs, our Macs, we have our network devices, our servers, our public cloud, our private cloud, our IoT devices, our mobile devices we have to be managing. Seems like there's a new one every year, and there is this year, and it's that end user online profiles, right? That identity. But what Kaseya offers is monitoring, patching, remote control, policy management, security, and reporting for all of these from anywhere with every device treated as first class. So I've talked about a little bit about Kaseya 365. Let's dive deeper into what Kaseya 365 actually is. It's a single subscription. It's a single solution with everything essential to manage, secure, backup, and automate both endpoint management and endpoint security. So what do I mean by everything essential? So at the truly major enterprise level, Mark was talking about 2 million endpoints. Generally, you have full teams devoted to at least each of these activities, and often devoted to each of the previous endpoint types that I've been talking about. Generally speaking, until you truly get Fortune 50, Fortune 100 level, you are the do-it-all IT professional, the do-it-all engineer, the do-it-all technician. And not only do you have to do it all, which is already exhausting, you have to do everything efficiently and affordably. Well, the first step is focus on the essentials and just get that right. So in terms of management, you of course need to be managing all of your endpoints. Unfortunately, this is a slide build, so feel free to just hit forward 4 times. But you're going to be, having access control over your devices and network. You need to be securing these devices, ensuring that the devices and the data are protected from intrusion or corruption. You need to be backing everything up, and you need to be automating. Gartner calls this the age of automation, but I talk to IT professionals every single day who just, really don't know where to even start, or they're so busy that they can't even start. Well, what Kaseya 365 actually offers on the next slide is each of these individual functions with best and breed technologies And once again, there's a build, so just hit it 4 times. But what you're gonna get is true unified endpoint management. You're gonna get built-in OS and third-party patching and firmware patching, but people usually care less about that. You're gonna get EDR, antivirus, ransomware detection, and should you choose the pro version of this, you're gonna get built-in managed detection and response, a managed security operations center. You get endpoint backup, and it's all properly pre-integrated and pre-automated so that you can actually take advantage of this. I'm sure you're thinking, let's dive deeper on this. So on the next slide, I want to talk about some of the things that Kaseya 365 can just do out of the box and make your life a heck of a lot easier. First off, automated patching. Frankly, table stakes, and yet so many vendors in the space are still choking patching. 57% of successful ransomware attacks are the result of unpatched software, which is, brutal, right? If you take one thing away from this webinar, just make sure you're getting patching right and you're significantly reducing your annualized risk of a ransomware attack. But Kaseya 365 has an extensive third-party catalog, and we vet these patches to minimize those day one disruptions. We also offer automated monitoring, both through our EDR solution, so you've got that advanced threat hunting, through antivirus, so you've got what we know has happened before, we're looking out for, and even the endpoint management solution itself is looking for those classic signs of ransomware. Because a true best-in-class endpoint management solution is a security solution too. We offer automated hardening, and users are rascals, and generally they're going to do as much damage as you let them do. Leverage those. You can leverage Kaseya 365's out-of-the-box policies to close those ports, enforce two-factor authentication, and prevent scripts from being executed by end users. And finally, you also get automated remediation. Kaseya 365 has a bunch of different built-in remediation workflows, from first off just quarantining the endpoint, isolating the endpoint. The attacker loses persistence, the end user loses control. It's probably their fault. We'll get them control back real soon. But Kaseya 365 does not. We've also got the capability to do ransomware rollback, which works almost always, and you just instantly get those files back. I'll show you that capability in just a couple of minutes. But you're probably asking yourself, oh my goodness, how much does this cost? You talked about so many tools. You talked about them pre-integrated. It is not expensive. It starts at $2.93 per endpoint per month. And that gives you that unified endpoint management solution. That gives you OS and third-party patching. That gives you EDR, that gives you antivirus, that gets you endpoint backup, and all pre-automated and pre-integrated. So you can probably just skip to slide 41 here, and let's talk about each of these capabilities in a little bit greater detail. And really some cool things that Kaseya 365 can do that is differentiated on the market. The first we're going to talk about is unified user management on slide 42. And I already kind of hinted a lot about this capabilities. One of the really cool things about Kaseya 365 is that not only do we manage endpoints, but we manage users. It is only M365 today. We're hard at work building, the Google Workplace version of this, but this allows your engineers, your technicians, your help desk agents, whoever, to handle a ton of common requests all within the endpoint management solution without actually having to go into one of Microsoft's 8-9 different consoles. It allows more junior members of your team to solve common user-related activities without having to give them, admin level access to all of Microsoft's different portals. So that gives you, just classic access management, who's where, what endpoints are attached to their account, what licenses or, software licenses they have, etc. It gives you one-click solutions for a lot of common and very frustrating tickets, password resets, the ability to block access, creating a temporary access password, once again, without having to go into those Microsoft portals, without having to give anybody else admin access. It allows you to automate a lot of user onboarding and offboarding. From the onboarding perspective, it is onboarding both the user and the endpoint simultaneously. So you create that user profile first in M365, and then you can put it into a onboarding workflow where the right software gets the right software licenses get provisioned and assigned according to, let's say you put them in the marketing group, they're going to want some marketing software. That same software is then deployed to the endpoint. The account is hardened at the same time the endpoint is hardened, allowing you to, reduce the onboarding time for a new user from half hour, an hour, sometimes even 2 hours, down to just about a minute. It also will allow you to ad hoc remove groups, roles, licenses, all kinds of good stuff. So it doesn't have to just be automated if you want to do things manually. Next, advanced software management. So we've got a very powerful patching built in, fully automated, really set and forget. This is 250 applications. It's actually, well, if you count all the sub-variation software, TeamViewer 13 versus TeamViewer 14, it's closer to 600. If you don't, it's closer to 300. It's up to 280 right now, but we add so many each week that it can be hard to even keep track of. One of the other cool things here is we've got, we call it midnight patching, but we've got the ability for vPro enabled endpoints to actually turn on the endpoint in the middle of the night, even if that endpoint is at home, even if the laptop lid is closed. We can turn it on, we can patch it, and we can turn it back off again, like a thief in the night, like we are never even there. So I often get asked, like, how do you convince end users that patching is important? Well, if you can help it, don't. We also, of course, have risk-based patching. You can do it, via CVSS scores. If CVSS score is 9.5 and above, patch by end of day. Right? That's a critical vulnerability. It's being actively exploited. That's one of those things that might be worth interrupting some end users, right? If 8 and above, patch within 2 weeks, or whatever the compliance standard or cyber insurance policy you have to follow. Usually it's 2 weeks. And again, it's going to be one of those scenarios where you're going to be looking, the little robot's going to be looking for a convenient time to patch so it doesn't interrupt end users. And 5 and below, I don't know. It's not terribly risky. You can probably wait a little bit to patch it. So we've talked user management. We've talked patching. Let's talk pre-integrated endpoint security. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a demo. First off, what you need. You need great protection against today's threats. It needs to be not noisy. Alerts need to be triaged. And your first-tier technicians or engineers need to be enabled, empowered even, to tackle common security scenarios. And one thing I'll say before we get into this is a lot of people have asked me, like, I haven't really even heard of Datto EDR or Datto AV. Like, are they any good? And the answer is firmly yes. We recently had a very in-depth third-party threat detection efficacy report from Meyercom just come out, and it found that Datto EDR has a 99.6% malware efficacy detection rate compared to an industry average of 73%. So pretty gosh darn good. And a 0-day malware detection efficacy rate of 98% compared to the industry average of 45%. So let's show you it in action. So on this next page, you're going to see, wherever your home base is, we want you to be empowered to be able to make the right decisions. Most people use Datto RMM really as their home base for everything because Datto EDR is so well integrated into Datto RMM that some people don't even know that they're different tools. Well, let's say you're the security guy and Datto EDR is your home base. You're going to be able to action this. If you're general IT, you're going to be able to action this. And if you click forward once, even in your ticketing solution, if that's your home base, you're going to get the same information regardless of where you are. So next, we're gonna, we see that there's this critical alert, and we're gonna need to check into this further. So as you can see here at the top, we've got these critical security alerts, category endpoint security. We're gonna be able to see, if you're an MSP, you're gonna be able to see the client, the site. If you're internal IT, you're gonna be able to see the department, the site, whatever. So, we're gonna need to do something about this. Let's click deeper. So you click further and you're going to be able to see this full endpoint security alert from Datto EDR directly in Datto RMM. You don't even need to click further. But let's say we do want to click further. You're going to be able to click into that view event and see the threat details and the recommendations as well. So again, in this instance, you're a junior woodchuck engineer. Oh goodness, you've never dealt with a ransomware attack before. Oh God, what do I do? Don't worry, the little robot friend is going to tell you what to do. In this case, we want to isolate the endpoint, quarantine that endpoint. So once again, you're able to do that with just a single click if you need to. Here's your isolate button, your revert isolation, or you can drill deeper into Datto EDR if you want. So just for fun, we're going to drill deeper into Datto EDR here. And you're going to be able to see some more advanced threat hunting. So once again, we're going to click deeper and you're going to see all kinds of good stuff. You're going to see the processes. If you need to do this advanced threat hunting, if not, you can generally just trust the little robot. So let's just hop back into Datto RMM real quick. And we are going to not only quarantine the endpoint, isolate the endpoint, but we can also quarantine and isolate the user account as well. So we're going to just block sign in here just in case we're worried that maybe admin level credentials got bought on the dark web. And we're going to just, as we know, we always in these situations want to go deeper. So we're going to remote control into the endpoint real quick. And we're going to be able to initiate ransomware rollbacks. You see that ransomware button at the bottom of the screen? You click that, and in just a moment, you're going to have everything back instantly. Sorry, this is actually supposed to say at the bottom that you're able to, let's say you've realized that you've stopped the attacker's gone, persistence has been blocked, then you're going to come in and unblock the user as well. So some closing thoughts before we get to questions and the polls. The future is unified. It's going to be any device, any endpoint, anything really, including users. The future is easy. You're going to be able to automate more than you ever thought possible without needing that PhD in PowerShell. And the future is here. But I'm just some talking head. Don't take my word for it. See Kaseya 365 in action yourself. And remember, it's only $2.93 per endpoint per month, including unified endpoint management, patching, EDR, AV, and endpoint backup in a single subscription, pre-automated, pre-integrated, so you can actually do your job. So we've got our quick poll for you, and I think we can, probably do some questions while that poll is running. Options are, I'd like a demo. I want more information first. And thanks, but no thanks.
Thanks, but no thanks. That's no one's got that answer. That was such great information. Thank you so much, Keenan. I feel like we were hive minding a little bit there. That was great. Great 2-man slide movement.
Oh, you're crushing it. Yeah, it was momentary panic when I was like, oh God, I can't move the slides. But no, it went perfectly.
It's always got to be something, right? In a live event, there's got to be a tech gremlin somewhere. Someone's got to come unmuted. There's a button that doesn't work. Otherwise, were you really live? I mean, that's how it goes, right?
True. You got to tell the audience you're live with those tech gremlins. Otherwise, they don't believe you.
That's right. All right, I'm leaving this up for a second longer because I do want to give everyone a chance, and then I'm going to move over to our additional follow-up poll that we have for you as well, which is basically just an expanded version of what you're seeing on the screen. We really want to know what additional information we want, and we've got a few other options for you besides this one. But we're starting with the demo question because I think the demo question is the best way to get to know a system, in any case, is really getting in the sandbox with it and playing around and seeing how it's going to work. So take a second now. And if a demo is something that's on your mind, please do click on that poll. I'm going to move over to, and I did see a few people saying, hey, I'd like to get a little bit more information before I jumped into a demo. Well, here is your way to do that. So click on the screen right here and let us know what the additional information that would be helpful. What would you get from Kaseya? Where would you want to start in terms of carrying this conversation forward? While you're doing that, Keenan and I are going to get into some questions. Keenan, are you ready?
You betcha.
Okay, let's do it. We're a little short on time, so I'm going to keep these quick and punchy here. We did get a couple of questions come in when you were talking about the price, because we hear this all the time, right? Well, that's too good to be true. And so then it probably is too good to be true. Talk to us about how, this $293, is that real? Is there a bunch of add-ons that we can expect to get later on?
No, that's the price. That's unified endpoint management. That's our full patching capabilities. That's our endpoint backup. That's antivirus EDR. The MDR version is a little bit more expensive. It's about $6 per endpoint, but I still think it's a screaming good deal to get an MDR managed SOC solution added on for just only $3 per endpoint per month. Woo! How we can afford to do that, I think, is probably the root of that question. It's because, actually quite similar to Tanium, so it's cool that we're, sharing the stage here. But we're a platform company. Our goal, and we're pretty transparent, is eventually we want you to be entirely on the Kaseya platform. And to do that, we need to be, A, low cost enough that makes financial sense. And of course, powerful enough that you want to do that. But because we have so many products, we don't need to make all of our money from a single product. Like the Ateras and the Ninja Ones of the world, they have one product, so they need to make, their whole dollar of profit from that. We can make a nickel here, a dime there, and, it's a long-term play. It's a partner play.
I have to read out this shout out from an audience member here from Rob saying, no question, but I have to give a plug for Kaseya 365. We've used Data RMM for almost 2 years and have signed up for the 365 a few months ago. We love it, easy to use, and great support for questions we had. Rob, that's an awesome shout out. Thank you for that.
Ow. Rob, add me on LinkedIn. I'll send you a t-shirt.
There you go, Rob. T-shirt from Keenan if you reach out on LinkedIn. All right, Keenan, we're running out of time, but I'm going to throw one last question at you. I'm actually going to combine it with our usual wrap question, because where we like to end is sort of with an action step, right? So I want to ask you, what's the best way to get started learning more about Kaseya? But I'm going to sneak in this other question as well, because you mentioned in the presentation, you had that Gartner quote about this is the age of automation, right? So for somebody out there that maybe is struggling in terms of how to get started, we all know that it's here, but maybe we don't know where to jump in with it. And it can feel kind of like the deep end of the pool. It's a little overwhelming. So what would you recommend as a first step for getting started with automation? And then bring us around to Kaseya as well and how we get started with that.
Yeah, so, automation can feel so freaking daunting, right? But like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Automation is a process of iterative design. Do a little bit each week. Start with what you hate. I personally, coming from IT, hate printer tickets. So the only time I ever got screamed at was printer tickets on the weekend. So that was the first thing that I did when I got to Kaseya is like, I want no IT professional to ever have to deal with a printer ticket again. And we just sat there and we figured it out real quick because it wasn't that hard. Didn't even need PowerShell for it. But it's iterative design. Do a little bit each week, and 6 months later, you're going to be like, wow, I've automated 40% of the things I hate about my life right now. Weird that they're all at work. In terms of like if that still feels too daunting for you, you may need to change your tools though. Because a lot of tools, particularly aimed at more mid-market enterprise rather than Fortune 50, Fortune 100, come with a ton of content out of the box to get you started. And a ton of best practices that allow you to lightly adapt, what the head honchos say into something that's actually useful for you. So just do a little bit each week. And if you still feel like you're failing, it's time to upgrade your tools. Good thing Kaseya 365 is pretty gosh darn cheap.
And I think, first of all, I would definitely like you to automate all the things I hate in my life. Although there's not much that I hate, but the frustrations, I think I'm on board with that.
I hate printing tickets, man. I hate them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then we're going to reach out to Kaseya. We're going to book demos. That's going to be the way that we get started on that process. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, don't trust me. See a demo for yourself. Hit us with your wacky use cases. Hey, how do you automate this? Super easily. We already got the script built in.
I definitely want all the wacky use cases. I hope you guys have some in mind out there. And now a great way to follow up with Keenan right now would be to post in the questions window if you do still have those questions, because again, we probably won't have time for Keenan to get back to you on live chat because we're going to wrap up in a few minutes here, but we are going to make sure that all the questions you ask get sent to the Kaseya team. So you're going to get responses back. You can also click on that poll. That's a great way to make sure that you get some follow-ups. Keenan, thank you so much for being here, for being our grand finale.
I had a blast. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I hope we get to chat with you again soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, so all of you out there still asking those questions, keep that coming in. Seth says a big thank you. Howard says thank you. Howard actually says gracias. Thank you, Howard. I appreciate that. De nada. All right, well, my friends, we are getting close to the end of our time here, which means there is first a prize giveaway coming at us. But before we go to the prize giveaway, I also want to remind everybody about the handouts tab. If you haven't been clicking on the handouts as we've been going through our session today, please do go click on the handouts now. There is a handout from each one of our wonderful teams. It is absolutely worth spending some time with. These are great follow-ups to the conversations that we're having with our incredible speakers. So the Tanium handout is that views from the C-suite, why endpoint management is more critical than ever. A really cool, easy read, well laid out, lots of interesting information. And then we've also got, if you click on the Kaseya link there, there's a really great sort of further information source. I don't know why that word stuck in my brain. Collection of information on Kaseya 365. So, we were just getting a great information from Keenan all about 365. And there's a lot more to dig into here. In 20 some minutes, we can only hit on so much. So if that sort of sparked your ear, piqued your attention, and you would like to dig in a little bit further and learn a little bit more, that handout is going to be a great next step. And I see some of you asking for additional information in the polls. So start with that handout. So make sure you've got those two handouts, download those, hold on to them, save them, because we're about to wrap up and you will want those follow-ups to the conversations we had here today. All right, well, now let's get into our prize giveaway. So we have 2 different gift cards going out to 2 lucky people here with us at the EcoCast. And these are $300 Amazon gift cards going to John Emilio from North Carolina and Ernesto Rodriguez from California. And John Emilio from North Carolina. I'm going to read out our whole prize winners list today for $300 Amazon gift cards going to Bill Reed from Mississippi, John Emilio from North Carolina, and Ernesto Rodriguez from California. Congratulations to all of you. All of you live in nice, warm, sunny places, and now you also have $300 Amazon gift cards. So I think everything's coming up roses for you, Bill, John, and Ernesto. Congratulations. All right. Well, my friends, with that, we're going to start to wrap up our day together today. I do want to remind all of you that there will be the best question gift card. We will follow up with each and every one of the winners from those sessions, and we're reviewing all the questions asked. So even if we didn't get to you in our live chat, you will hear back from the teams in terms of answers, and you are entered to win that $50 best question gift card. Well, if you're on the webinar today, hanging out on the EcoCast, and you're having a good time and you're thinking, hey, I've got some stories I'd like to tell. I'd like to come and hang out with Keenan and Mark and Jess. I can't guarantee that Mark and Keenan will be here, but I will be here. So if you would like to come and hang out on the EcoCast, shoot us a message at connect@actualtechmedia.com. We would love to get that conversation rolling with you and see if we can bring you out onto an EcoCast or MegaCast again soon. Well, with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank our speakers here with us today from Tanium and Kaseya for making this EcoCast possible. And more than that, for making this EcoCast just really fun. I had a great time with all of you today. What a wonderful Thursday this turned out to be. I knew going in that we were going to get some great information, and our speakers did not disappoint. Some really exciting demos, great ways of looking at endpoint management. I'm going to steal the Kaseya quote, endpoint users are rascals. So today we got a little bit of insight on how to deal with those rascally rabbits. And I hope that you're all feeling nice and prepared to jump into some follow-up conversations now, because obviously this is just the first step. And of course, and as always, my biggest thank you is to all of you out there for joining in, for taking time out of your day. I saw a few posts at the beginning. I think it was Eddie saying, what a busy day it's been. And I agree, sometimes it is really hard to stop in our days and take a minute to think about some of these high level or forward looking conversations. We get stuck in the day that we're having, and it's, it takes effort to pull our eyes up and look ahead, look down the road, look at the evolutions that we're dreaming of in our organizations. And today, every single one of you took that time, made that time in your day, and joined in that conversation, looking ahead, thinking about the changes that you'd like to make in your organization. And they have the potential to be big and impactful changes. So congrats to all of you for taking that time out of your day. We very much appreciate you. I hope you'll join us again on Wednesday, July 4th. That's 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We're going to be talking in an EcoCast about best practices for hardening your hybrid infrastructure. So this is going to apply to a lot of us out there. A really interesting conversation. Please join us. Best practices for hardening your hybrid infrastructure, Wednesday, July 24th, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. All right, well, I still see a few questions coming in for the teams. Please do keep those coming. I know they definitely want to hear from you. We're going to make sure that you get some responses back in email. But for now, we are going to have to wrap things up and leave it there and let you all get on about your days. But I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us here today. It has been such a pleasure. I hope that I get to see you all again soon. And until then, have an absolutely beautiful end to your day.